Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to provide a trip for 12 to the Auburn game. That's on November 12th. You and 11 friends. To register for the 12th Fan trip, visit 12thman.com/12thfan. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is a proud corporate partner of Texas A&M Athletics. We are at Rudy's, and it's another edition of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. The Aggies coming off their 23-21 win over Arkansas on Saturday. That's now number 10 going down, number 13 2 Saturdays ago at Kyle Field, and the Aggies are 3-1 as they get set to take on Mississippi State with head coach Jimbo Fisher. Howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
How has it been? I asked you in your office today, hey, explain in your words that win on Saturday against Arkansas.
Well, it was a game where we didn't play particularly well, especially early. And on either side of the ball, offense, defense, weren't fitting gaps on defense, giving up drives, giving up plays offensively, shooting ourselves in the foot with self-inflicted wounds, pick up first downs, have a motion, illegal shift, have them first down, have plays to make. And we're down 14-0, and then we took them on, I think it was a 96-yard drive. We popped a run, got some things going, made a 96-yard drive, got back in the game, got to 14-7, and then they took the game and took the ball and went straight back down the field. We're still controlling it, ready to go up 21-7, and our kids just kept playing in the game, still competing, not playing well, but we competed in the game very well, and made the play. Didn't let them have it. They're on the 2 or 3 yard line, ready to go in, get a ball batted. Chappelle picks it up, running with it, Damani gets it, and we score, and that's how fast things can change. Mm-hmm. You got to make things happen. You know what I'm saying? And we were fortunate to make things happen, but we made them happen because we kept playing the next play. You weren't always playing well, but you kept competing. And then all of a sudden, a little word called momentum, a little word called confidence chips in and say, hey, we're right in this thing. And all of a sudden, now unfortunately, we dropped the PAT. We had to we go the long way. I promise you that. So it's 14-13, and then but then get a stop, get the ball 2 minutes, and then drive again and moving the ball well again, and we get a penalty for block below the waist. Then we get another, go back to the 50. Then we get a legal motion. So we go in at halftime, and we started to kick a field goal there at halftime. And I would have if they didn't have the return team in. They hadn't called timeout. So I felt, if we were safe. Then I felt they're doing it. The odds of making it, he could make it from there, but the odds of making it aren't great, and they could return it. Why take that chance? Mm-hmm. We got momentum in the game. Plus, we got the ball coming out first, and can play coming out the second half. So then we come in and made nice adjustments, got our kids back, got their feet on the ground to come out and had a tremendous drive. Straight down the field, 70-something yards, touchdown, moving the ball consistently. Defense gets them out. We come back, drive again, another 60, 70-yard drive, and overcame a holding, a clipping, and a delay. An illegal snap, and still scored a field goal. So up 23, and then they got back into it, and we drove again and had an opportunity. Then they got back and scored, and we drive and down there and stall. Had 2 or 3 plays right there. We have a perfect drive, then we don't finish it, miss a field goal, and then they drive and they missed a field goal. And then we had 2 timeouts. That's what everybody said. Well, 2 reasons. Do you call timeout there? No, I wanted to keep the timeouts. A minute 30 with the field goal for us. We worked that drill, but the 2 timeouts are vital. Mm-hmm. Plus, because one, you end up calling most likely, and you always want another one to set up your field goal, be ready, composed. And college football, the clock stops so much, and then plus, if they did take a knee, we'd had to get a first down, or we'd had to punt it back to them. So we thought the 2 timeouts was the way to go. So, but hey, hard-fought game. Didn't play particularly well all the time, but played real well in times, but competed real well. And hopefully we can learn that lesson and compete for a whole game this game.
It's there, right? Those plays
are there to be made. We got to execute, got to coach better, but at the same time we got to relax. And I say the penalties at the beginning, they're not. I don't think they're discipline penalties. I think they're emotional penalties. I think we get so hyped, get eager, want to do something, want this to happen, want that to happen. You got to keep your poise. You got to keep your poise and do what's coming. But still, they're penalties. You got to get those eliminated. And we haven't had a lot of those offensively in that regard, that. But hey, we got to overcome. We got a lot to work on in all 3 phases.
It was so interesting to hear from Tyreek Chappelle on Monday that confidence, even though Arkansas had gotten down to the 3. He was saying that defense, saying, "We're gonna force this turnover." They haven't.
Well, we just keep making play, or don't let them in the end zone.
Right.
You make them kick a field goal, and you don't know what's going to happen. You play the next play, and people. That's how fast. When you're down 14-9, that seems like insurmountable. That's 2 plays. Mm-hmm. When you put it in perspective in football, it's 2 plays. That's a drive or a big play and a turnover touchdown, which is what happened. That's why you always get those 3-score leads, which is vital. You got to get to 17 points or more, and then keep stretching. And we had chances to do that in the second half. We missed some reads on some balls. We were up 23-14. If we throw a ball in the corner down there, it's going to be a touchdown. We're up 30. We probably left 24, 28 points on the field easily. And it's execution. We got to get there.
I love the drive to start the third quarter, though, Jimbo, because to me it was the way you like to play football. On the ground, that offensive line.
Well, we ran the ball, we threw it, we hit big passes, we hit big runs, we kept balance. And that's what I think we do, and that's what I want to do. And we kept the balance and doing the things we had to do. We just got to keep grinding.
On that return, I always look on those interception returns or those fumble returns. You always have on that defense, there's always someone blocking. Edgerrin Cooper is running with somebody and blocking. Damani's usually doing it. But it is that communication between that defense where Damani's saying, give it to me, and Tyreek knows, okay, I'm going to give it to 26.
And they transition. I mean, that we work on those things. You got to transition from offense to defense. And you work them on offense, too. So you have turnovers. You go from offense to being defense and try to get tackles. Those quick transitions are things we work on all the time. But, it's important to be able to do that and just keep playing. And we're gonna have a huge challenge this week, so we're gonna have to keep playing hard this week. That's for sure.
Yeah, against Mississippi State. We'll have that a little bit later on the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. We will step aside more on the Arkansas win, and then as I said, we will preview Mississippi State this Saturday at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock with our St. Joseph Health pregame show. Stay with us. This is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit, and this is Aggie football from Learfield. Barker's Heating and Cooling, proud to be the official heating and cooling provider for Aggie Athletics, earning your seal of approval since 1979. And a lot has changed since then, but our pride in Aggie football and our commitment to providing great service remains as strong as ever. Barker's says, gig 'em, Aggies. We're going to start in the state of Texas. Spring, Los Fresnos, Gatesville, Tyler, Orange, Atascocita, Denison, Fort Hood, Lufkin. H-Town has checked in. And Fort Worth, and Effie and Olga from Melbourne, Australia as well, and Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska. The early check-ins as they are watching on Facebook. We thank you very much. With Jimbo Fisher, it's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. Still talking more about that Arkansas game. Antonio Johnson, Defensive Player of the Week in the SEC, 13 tackles, 27. Always makes his presence felt there on that defense.
Yeah, he does. I mean, the versatility he has and just the intelligence and natural ball skills he plays with is outstanding, and he's playing really well.
Jimbo, you mentioned something going from defense to offense. Every time I talk to you about your secondary, you talk about length and high pointing the ball on the defense, and you say how much there are offensive skills there. But that's another one of those offensive skills, to be able to intercept or recover that fumble and then turn the other way. You look for that, don't you?
The best DBs I've ever been around were really offensive players that played defense. They were offensive players and had the ball skills like great offensive players, and then they can transition on defense and tackle and do those things. But when they get opportunities, the game's about one thing. It's about the ball. So when you get chances to make plays on the ball, you got to make them. Catching it, adjusting on it, judging it. Batting ball, that's important. But, man, you got to catch it. You got to intercept it. You got to pick it up on a fumble. When it bounces funny, those guys that can have those quick hands and natural ball skills, man, just make so many more plays, and they change the game. And it was huge.
The play of the defensive line and Shamar Turner against a very experienced center, but the bad snap towards the end, nearly got that one. The fumbled punt for the second week in a row, nearly had that one. The one ball that bounced right back to Arkansas, it was almost like a basketball there, but so close. And like you say, just being in those positions, you can't force anything on Turner.
The punt was disappointing. The punt, well, I will say this, last year we had that guy, last week we had him surrounded. We eased up right there on that play a little bit, and I think we could have got that ball personally if we'd have finished that play just right. But the other chances of making plays on the ball, keep stripping it, and you keep getting it on the ground, it's going to get to yours and making a difference. And like I say, Shamar's really starting to play really good football, and like he always has. But I mean, being really consistent and just he plays so hard, man. He is a true football player. And what I mean, he likes everything that go lifting, practice, doing. I mean, he gets in game mode in everything he does.
I love that you draft nothing but Shamars because I've got a 2 in 11 chance of getting it right on defense. But he and Stewart, and that D-line, just the way you rotate Jimbo to be able to be fresh come the fourth quarter.
Well, people say that, they say, well, you got numbers. You got to. And just think of the number of snaps and the physicality which you got to go through in the season playing in this league, just like in the NFL. And that body can only take something to keep guys fresh. And each have different skill sets and do different schemes, different things you can do with them.
Going back to the punting, we love to fall in love with numbers, right? So, wow, you want to see the punter kick at 60, 70 yards. But if you outkick your coverage, it doesn't do any good. So the combination of the way Nick punts, the height that he gets, and your coverage, that helps those turnovers.
Well, that's the net punt. I mean, that goes with the net punt. I mean, and what you're netting on your punt with we're counting your returns plus your hang time plus your coverage and those things, and making guys make contested catches with the hang time and still getting the distance and getting our guys down the field. Bryce Anderson, those guys are doing a tremendous job of getting down there.
Yeah, we've talked time and again that is a great opportunity for the young players to get those snaps and really make a difference.
Well, you don't realize you play how many snaps you play when you're on special teams. You play all of them. You're going to play 30, 40 snaps a game, which is almost over, a little over half a game. And then plus you get comfortable now when I get my opportunities on offense and defense, and I've already been on the field, I've already been hit, I've already understand what a game's about and the game speed's about. It even enhances that ability to make that adjustment quicker.
Jimbo, you lose Aniyah Smith, and that's like losing more than one player, and that one hurts because I know they all hurt, all your players, but Aniyah is absolutely something special.
Well, he is, and just the leadership and how much experience he has, how many things, how he sets those young receivers out there on the field and gets them straight and doing things, and he has a versatility the way he plays, the punt returns, playing in the backfield, playing out of the backfield. I mean, he's just a complete football player, and I hate it, and it hurts my heart for him. It hurts my heart for him because of how special a young man he is and how hard he competes. But, the other guys have to look at this. Now it's an opportunity for me to step up. So hopefully they've been preparing to play.
And almost like this is what Aniyah wants for me because he's such that team player.
He's going to demand from him. Mm-hmm. He's out there. He's been out there in practice every day. And he's right there. He's got a little scooter, and he walks and drives around and gets on those guys and pushes them, and that was a really good job.
Jimbo, he was signaling plays.
Yeah,
that's what I love about that.
Yeah, signaling plays, getting communication in there, and helping those guys.
Those are the special players, aren't they?
They are, the guys that love the ball and everything about it.
He is Jimbo Fisher. This is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. We will step aside and come on back to Rudy's for the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit, together, we're better. Keep checking in, Ags, Albany, Montgomery, Cypress, El Paso, Columbus, New Orleans is checked in. Orlando's checked in. Be safe. Same thing for South Florida. Connie is in Marseille. She was here last week. Now she's in Europe and is watching, so she has checked in. And Osan, South Korea, for those serving, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday with us in the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show.
God bless them.
We're going global, baby. We're going global. Jimbo, you made a comment, and the way you said it, you were talking. Someone had asked you on Saturday after the game about Devon Achane, and you just know how special he is, and that ability, as you say, to go on that 90-yard drive, 96-yard drive. And he gets the first 63. He is a momentum changer, whether you hand off to him, a wheel route to him, a kick to him. He just has that knack, doesn't he?
Guys that have the touches. The guys that touch the ball, and they're special, and they can change the game. And our guys did a great job. I'll tell you what we did the other night. We did a great job up front of blocking, getting him to second level untouched. And then he was making guys miss, or they would take bad angles. And when he does that, he's such a dynamic player. And we got to keep giving him the touches and the things he does. And he's so natural at what he's doing. It
has to be such a bad feeling for the defense to see 6 running away because you're rarely going to catch him.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, and he's doing it a lot right now.
I really seem to think, I was asking Dave this on the radio, the way he is cutting, he's always had that patience and acceleration, but the way he can put that foot in the turf or the grass and cut, he seems to be becoming an even more refined running back now.
He is. You can see the patience. And the great ones, sometimes it's not like they're moving. They say to be quick but don't hurry, but it's like, is he really? Yes, and he just keeps natural. But he's feeling the game, his cuts. He doesn't run out of control, plays with his eyes extremely well, and trusts his eyes, what he sees and how to press blocks and his technique with he does it. But he can just see things and has that natural feel to stick his foot in the ground, change direction, make plays.
Your running backs have always had that knack, haven't they? You look for that in a running back.
Well, you do. I mean, like I say, if you're having to tell him how to run, you recruit the wrong guy. I mean, you can give them the direction, you can give them the things to do, and then they got to feel it. And I've been blessed in my career to have some phenomenal guys. And since we've been here, I mean, we've had outstanding tailbacks. The guys here have been extremely productive, and that Devon is the same way.
I always love to hear the teammates talk about the running backs, and the first thing they bring up is their blocking ability.
Yes.
Pass pro, or no problem being, I'll be the fullback.
Well, you can. I mean, because runs get checked, the looks you get. Sometimes you're the blocker, sometimes you're the runner. There's going to be blitzes. You can't always not do that. And you got to be a complete player to play running back. And you got to be skilled. You got to be tough. You got to be athletic. You got to be able to run, catch. I mean, a running back is an extremely well-diverse young man who's a great one.
Yeah, it's just so, and he seems so coachable, Jimbo. And like as soon as
let me tell you something. Let me tell you, he's coachable, and he's highly intelligent. I mean, he's one of those guys, you can tell something one time, and if it's something you haven't even went over on the board, you see it out on the field and you go over it, the picture flashes in his mind. He can understand conceptually. He can understand what you're talking about. And I can do it. I got you. And can just go do it. Mm-hmm. He gets it now. And the great ones are able to do that because the ability to learn, to be able to see, conceive, and then I always say I don't care how well you coach a guy. There's 15 or 20% of something that can happen on plays that I call the gray area. Like when you drive a car, you always hear me use that analogy. Mm-hmm. You can ride down the road, and every time you ride, something different is going to happen. By how the guy in front of you acts, the guy behind you, the rain, the weather, the wind, the snow, guy stopping, cutting in front of you, somebody coming from the side, a deer runs on the road. And the ability to process those things when they happen in a game, the great players, I don't care what position you're at, mm-hmm. and ability to do the right thing. Not everybody can do that. And they can be really good players. But those great ones, those areas in which you just, you couldn't, every time you do something could be different. Mm-hmm. They just naturally, and understand conceptually about what's trying to happen and just naturally do the right thing. And that's the way he plays. He's exceptional in that way.
Is that part of the sometimes undefinable it factor?
Yes, it's the it factor. The guys, decision-making on what you're doing and the risk-reward about what you're about to do. There's a risk to it, but there's a reward to it. And how do you weigh that part depending on field position, time in the game, situation, clock. There's so many things that go into that. And the guys who can do that, boom, like that, those are the guys that are just different. And you can coach it to a point. But then some guys got it or some guys don't.
Yeah, we always talk about the greatness. It seems like we always come back to that. But that's the
it factor. That's the it factor.
Yeah.
To be able to process information, make the right decision based on the risk reward of what's about to happen in front of you right now.
And it's not, hey, I've got to have so many touches, right? He's not that way at all.
He is the most selfless guy. The guys who worry about that never become great players.
Right.
Because two things, they don't affect their teammates in a positive way every day, and they get so caught up in themselves, they lose themselves, and this is a complete team game. You can say you're in it. It doesn't work that way, man. It does not work that way.
Yeah, and I always talk to you about your quarterback room. So in that running back room with Amari Daniels, with Le'Veon Moss, with LJ, right, with Ernest Crownover, it just permeates that entire room, doesn't it, when you have a room full of guys like that?
You got to have a room full of competitors and more guys that want to do it. And that's what it finds out. I always say this. Complacency, and I always say this, what's your plan for me? What's your plan for me? What's your plan for me to play? How am I going to play? Well, what's your plan to play? You know what I'm saying? And then processing that information and working your tail off to do it. And when you get guys in the room, you get a lot of good players can play, you better figure that out quicker. Somebody is in that room, and you're not going to be one of them.
That's exactly. What's your line? Competition eliminates complacency. Yeah, and that starts on the practice field.
Yes, it does.
How have practices been?
Better. We're getting better and better. We're learning from them, trying to educate them on the situations. And we don't do things like the other day. I said, all right, this is what happened the other day. Let's stop it right now. We don't want to do it. There ain't no sense to yell. There ain't no sense to holler. Yeah. Why? Are we going to fix that? Yes. And then they jump right back on. They've been very coachable. It's a young group, but it's a very coachable group.
I was hoping not to hear cowbells until Saturday, but I know you have them going on at practice.
Well, there's just noise. I don't even know what it is. I don't even pay attention to the noise. We just crank the noise up so we can work our counts and silent counts and all that stuff, and that is what it is.
Absolutely. Starkville on Saturday for the Aggies and Mississippi State. 3 o'clock is the kick. Foot the ball at 3:01, by the way. Pregame will be at 2 o'clock. We'll come back to the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We're at Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Howdy, Ags. Andrew Monaco here, inviting y'all to visit Costa Vida Fresh Mexican Grill. Baja-style Mexican made from scratch daily, serving breakfast, tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie-owned and operated in South College Station. That's our friend Holly has that one. This is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. In case anybody was wondering, and we've always done this with our friends in Australia, because Effie and Olga, as we said, Greg have checked in, but the game will start at 5 a.m. Sunday in Korea, just in case you were wondering about that. So they'll be up, they'll be watching.
Amazing.
Definitely do that. Jimbo, Phillip has the first question, which means his homework has been done.
Attaboy.
Phillip's also playing some football.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. He's coming right to you, too. Will Rogers is a very talented quarterback. Will you be bringing extra blitzers for pressure, or will you be putting out extra DBs for coverage? Thank you, Phillip Lee.
We're petitioning the SEC if they'll give us 13 guys right now. So we can blitz 2 extra guys and cover 2 extra guys. That's what he is. We need him. That's what it's because when you pressure him, he gets it out, and when you cover him, he finds those holes. And he's a very talented guy. And you're right. You're going to have to mix up looks. You can't give the guy the same look all the time and allow him to see the same thing every time because he's a very talented guy. And I'm going to tell you what, he's deceivingly athletic. You don't realize because you think of him throwing so much. But he can scramble, makes plays, and does a great job, and just a really good player.
They have been good on third downs, has Mississippi State so far this season. We'll talk about them a little bit more. Ian was not here last week because he was putting a paper to bed. So if you've ever put a paper to bed, you know the hours can extend very, very long. The Roar. That's his question. What's the most unique thing that you've been asked to autograph? Most interesting thing you've been asked to autograph? Are you allowed to say, or is that for our Jimbo Fisher Show after dark?
No, I don't. Not that, but I mean, I don't know if there's many things I haven't autographed. Maybe that's what that would be the craziest thing to say. It's amazing, different things people have and what you see, and it's been a lot of stuff. I mean, I've had to write really small, I've had to write really big. I mean, it's amazing.
Do you remember your first autograph?
No, I don't.
No?
No, I don't.
Something early?
Yes.
You remember how you were? Do you remember the feeling when you were asked?
I'm going to tell you the one thing about autographs. Well, the first time was like, wow, you really want it. But 2, I always said when I autograph something, I want to write it so it's legible. And my kids have so many autographs of balls and players and major league players and stuff at home. And you write on it, and they got one that were like 6, 7, 8. Hey, Dad, I can't read it.
I don't know.
I don't know if they don't put a number. Sometimes they put a number or something. You can do it, but everybody did. I always say I want to write one. At least they know when they have it 50 years from now. They know who the heck wrote it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has that deal in their little deal. But that was one thing I wanted to make sure I did. I knew that.
Did you
and not misspell it?
Right. Did you practice?
No.
No? Okay. I'm just wondering.
I wish I had time.
That's a great point. I was thinking about this. You were talking about end of half, end of game, and the timeout situation and the timeouts that you like to have left and the possibility of kicking a field goal or not.
Yeah,
bumper pull, I think. You had to learn that over the course of your career, correct?
Well, I did it when I played quarterback, though. Mm-hmm. As a quarterback, you had that advantage because you thought those things all the time. You knew what you wanted to have, how many you wanted to have, the way you wanted to have it. It's like, in the first half, we called a timeout one time with a substitution issue, and you don't want to do that. But sometimes it happens. You better get to play, and you save those timeouts. They're valuable. The thing in college football, though, than pro football, is so different, is the ability to stop the clock. It's so much easier, and so pro football rules are totally different. Mm-hmm. Fans get confused sometimes. A minute 30 with 2 timeouts in college football is an eternity, and what you have and how you can stop things and the way you can do things. But learning to manage that part of the game, at the end of the half, starting the second half, but those 2 minutes, we work 2 minutes to death. Mm-hmm. I mean, we work, and it's funny. I've done it for 30-some years, and during the season, you'll do it, and there'll be 3 things come up if never come up in the other 35. Just the scenario, this exactly the way they come up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not that they've been similar, but each unique little thing can make it different. And do you need a field goal? Do you need a touchdown? Mm-hmm. Where this happens, where that happens? In the process of where the quarterback can throw the ball with timeouts, no timeouts. I mean, just the whole scenario of things is pretty crazy. But I like that. It's an intriguing part of the game that I really love. But I think I did it because I played quarterback, so we were in it so much. And you thought you had to think like the coach and managing the timeouts and where you threw the ball and stopping the clock and how you did it and how you told your players. And, and listen, this league, when you're playing great teams, it's coming down to that.
Yeah. I've asked you this also. You now watch the game from the sideline, whereas a quarterback, it was straight on. Was that also an adjustment?
Oh, big time. You can see so much from behind. Mm-hmm. You can't see from the side. You can see and you learn to do it.
Yeah.
But it's not the same. And that's why I say you judge a quarterback. People say, well, that guy was wide. Don't ever judge those guys till you watch the film from behind in the end zone copy and see what he sees. Because what you see on the side is often very much not what he sees from behind because of lane, because of rush, because of things that happen. You can't – the whole scenario – so like I say, everybody likes the 50-yard line seats, and I know true football people like the end zone seats.
That's exactly right.
You really do. You like the end zone seats because how things develop if you understand truly what you're looking at and how you're looking at it.
Yeah. Did that, being a quarterback, also influence the way you deal with quarterbacks, the way you dealt with coaches? And does it go back to the why?
Everybody said I'm so tough on them. I was tough on myself. You're demanding you better be and getting on people. And that was just my nature, who we was. But, yes, it does. No doubt. No doubt.
And that's because, as you always say, quarterback, too much credit, too much
And you touch the ball every play. You got a responsibility. You got a responsibility how you do things and the way you do things, and it's a huge responsibility. And the pressure can't eat you up. And you got to take it. And listen, and you understand as quarterback, if you talk about 50, 60, 70, 80 plays in every minute, you're making a decision almost every play. Think if you make 80 decisions a day, how many times are you exactly right, perfect every time? Like the world wants you to be in football.
Exactly.
They want all those throws, all those reads, they want everything perfect. When you can't control everything, you know what I'm saying? And learning to process and do those things and understand that there's going to be some gray, there's going to be some things that there's good decisions, there could be better decisions and things that go on, but how you manage the situations are really critical, and how you process that and move on and then don't repeat them.
You always say that the guys who handle the ball every snap have to be your smartest, and now you have Bryce Foster and Max Johnson. It's nice to see those two working.
They can't be knuckleheads, man. I mean, they can't be knuckleheads, and other guys can do it and touch it and do things, but those guys, the responsibility that goes, because every decision of who we block, who we throw it to, who we hand it to, and the play which we hand it to them is being determined by those guys.
Yeah.
And that's a huge responsibility.
Bryce was hard on himself. He didn't like the low snaps. I know not everybody does, but he was hard on himself, and he said, look, I want to be Eric McCoy. And Eric McCoy didn't have this problem. He wants to do that. You love that in a player, don't you?
Eric had one or two now. I'll give him some credit now. Eric was an absolute phenomenal.
Yeah.
I wish I got to coach him 1 year, but man, what a football player.
Yeah.
And what a leader, and and you saw what's happening to him in pro ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought he was a first-round pick.
Yeah,
I should have been, in my opinion. But
I agree.
But it's showing it in pro football right now. But one of the all-time greats I've ever been around. But Bryce got a chance, and that's a standard you got to hold yourself to. That goes back to your standard. Mm-hmm. Where do you hold yourself?
Yeah. And another guy back in the lineup. Good. I'm just always glad to see 42, Max Wright.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell you this: his presence, not only his play and his physicality and his intelligence and his competitiveness, but just his presence around the guys for accountability and leadership. Makes a huge difference.
And everybody, because he's been the defensive lineman and now the tight end, he gets along with everyone.
Well, you can't help he gets along with everyone because they respect him.
Yeah.
And they respect him because of his work ethic, his toughness. And there was a time now he had surgeries where they told him, you may not play again.
Right.
And his family found the surgeons, and everything was okay, and that's what they wanted to do, and how important the ball is to him, and how much he sacrifices for it. And his mom and dad are phenomenal people. I mean, they're loving and supportive. Anything, and there's no one deserves more success than he does. He is a tremendous human being and has a great family.
I'd love to talk with him. He said blocking these guys every single day. It reminds me of, I've had to block some of the best in the SEC. He goes, and I'm going up against that every single day. That's how good the defensive line is.
Yeah, he likes those big bodies, and it's what makes him better.
Yeah, absolutely. Max Wright and the Aggies. Saturday in Starkville for Mississippi State. 3 o'clock will be the kick, and 2 o'clock for our St. Joseph Health pregame show. We'll step aside. Another segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show straight ahead, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Rudy's is a proud sponsor of Aggie Football. Be sure to stop by your local Rudy's or Rudy's.com for some real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoked meats, delicious sides, and Rudy's signature sauce. And don't forget, Rudy's serves breakfast tacos every day until 10 a.m. Aledo and Hockley, New Braunfels, Beaumont, College Station, Bryan, McKinney, Longview, Willis, Louisville, Kentucky have all checked in. Aaron Judge has hit his 61st. Those are the headlines. I mentioned, Jimbo, they're checking in from Orlando. They're checking in for South Florida. Well, I lived in Florida for 13 years. You've been in Florida, and anytime the hurricanes come, you know what, dodged a couple. Some have been fortunate, sometimes not so fortunate, but all of that stayed in our thoughts. Yeah, I've been in them, and like I say, our thoughts and prayers, and please, everybody, adhere to what their people are telling you, get safety and do the things you got to do. That is tons of rain, wind, damage, and our thoughts and prayers are with you, man. Those things are scary, and I've been in quite a few of them, and they're not fun, no doubt. The combination of the flooding, and then you lose the power, and all that. There's so many other aspects than just that hurricane, and it lasts for so long. Exactly, and then you don't understand the rain and all those things, and just you get the winds, and you hopefully survive those from the blowing and all that, and then the rain and they can be. They're nasty. I'm with you. They're going to be the remnants of that for a while. Mississippi State on Saturday, you were asked on your teleconference about going to Starkville and how hard it is to play there. And I'm going to ask you that, but the one thing that always makes me chuckle, when you have to go into places like that and they have talent, it becomes a lot harder to win in those places. It's not just the fans and not just stadiums, right? When they've always had that kind of talent. They've always got good players. And listen, they have 2 sophomores start. Everybody else is a junior, redshirt, senior, or 6th-year senior.
I mean, they are maybe the most experienced veteran team we play all year. Guys have played a lot of football, a lot of things. And listen, talent's one thing. When you have veterans, it makes a big difference, man. Those guys know how to play. They've been through the battles and all those competitions, and they've seen about everything can happen. And, man, it makes it that much tougher to play against those guys.
The good news is Mekhi Polk is no longer there. The bad news is they have about 16 other receivers that they can go to.
They throw it around, and that's what they do. And everybody says, the air raid, and the air raid is not a complex system, and what I mean by that is there's not a ton of things. They do what they do and have their variations of it. They're very good at it, and they do it the multiplicity of different ways and get the ball out, and it's just the speed. Then they just hurry up, no huddle, and go at it. And, we all have the same concept, just the way they do it. It's very good. Mike's excellent at it, and he's been doing it a long, long time. But the other thing is defensively, Arnett coach, their defense coordinator is a heck of a coordinator. He's a pain in the tail, man. I mean, and what I'm saying, just preparation, the things he does, how he does it. And then they have veteran players who've been in the system a long time and do it very well, and the variations of things and the way they can get to you. And then they get their kickoff return guy average 36 yards a kickoff, and their punt return guy is 14 yards a punt. So, I mean, they got guys that when they touch it, they're very electric, and they're good in all three phases of what they do. And they're 3-1, got a very good football team with a very experienced team and a very experienced quarterback. Stop
me if you heard this before, but 3 dynamic linebackers, right? And Wheat, Watson, and Jet Johnson.
They can play, they can run, and they're up, down, they get 3 down, 4 down front, stand up, blitz. I mean, they do a lot of things now.
You're talking about their quarterback in Will Rogers. He ran something like this in high school. And you always talk saddle time, right? He's had saddle time in this system.
You get in that system and knowing what you do and the comfort level because of the decisions and the way those decisions are made. Once you get comfortable in that, then your true physical talents come out, and that's what's happening with him. He's an excellent player.
I know early on they played him. He was very young, right? And that goes back to your example of don't judge somebody from game 1 or 2. You have to take a look at that total picture. And the more and more comfortable that you get, he can check down to a run. He knows what to do all the time, doesn't he?
They do in the decision-making process, the accuracy process, and just getting the ball to the right guys around. You're a distributor and getting the balls there, and he does an excellent job.
They've always had tough running backs as well, haven't they?
Physical, strong. That state always has.
Yeah.
That state, the defensive linemen, the DBs, the running backs. I mean, they've always had good skill guys, quarterbacks. I mean, Mississippi, for the number of people within that state, it's amazing the number of football players that are produced that play pro football and high-level college football.
You've always said wherever you've been in the
ratio is
SEC,
amazing.
Yeah, that's part of that South that you
South,
love to recruit,
man.
right?
Between Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama, and because Georgia and Florida and Texas, and we all have large populations. I mean, you're talking about Louisiana's 4 million, Mississippi's a little over 2, Alabama's 3, but the numbers of players per capita and per area and the way they play is very important. And then you tag it with the other areas in the South, and then football is just there's a lot of players, man.
I'm certainly hoping that the guy from Loosedale is the one who's going to be smiling on Saturday, McKinley Jackson, right? He's proud when A&M beats a Mississippi school.
He is now. Exactly right. Exactly right.
I love that. One more segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit to come here at Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. A reminder that 2022 Texas A&M football tickets on sale now. Be the 12th man. Experience Kyle Field this season. Buy a 3-game flex pack. Discounted group tickets or single game tickets today. Plus, free tickets for first responders and military personnel are available. Visit 12thman.com/football tickets for all your 2022 Aggie football ticket needs. It is our last segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. The Aggies and Mississippi State on Saturday from Starkville. Jimbo, the tempo of Mississippi State, with that depth that you have, does that depth play in your favor when you get a team that likes to play as quickly as they
I mean,
do?
I don't know if it's in your favor, but it's something you have to have. You got to keep a rotation. You got to keep fresh guys, and fresh guys make better decisions, and that's the part of it. And keeping guys into what they do. But then once you get into it, you're going to have to. There's going to be long drives. They're going to catch you out there. They're going to do things in which they keep you there when our conditioning and be able to make those plays and adjustments as we go. So it'll be a great challenge.
It seems like they like to keep the same 11 on defense, right? They won't substitute, but you have to have. You've got a lot of confidence in those 11, no matter which 11 are out there.
Yeah, they do. It's a good team now. Like I say, they've played a lot of football on both sides of the ball, so they're going to be very confident in what they do and how they do it.
I know it's not you didn't get off to the fast start, but will a fast start be important on Saturday?
I think it really, especially on the road. I think you don't ever win the game in the first 5 minutes, but you can set the tempo very well, or you can put yourself behind the 8 ball. Like we set ourselves back last week, but then you don't want to do that consistently because you can't keep digging yourself out. You got to learn to start. Like with the Miami game, we started really fast. We did a great job. We got to get back to that tempo and get things going like that.
Yeah, I was worried, honestly, on Saturday that there wouldn't be enough time. And you hate having to do everything in just the 3 quarters, but I love when this team finds its rhythm.
It does.
It's a lot of fun to watch.
And if you keep it under 3 scores, it's just 2 plays.
Yeah.
That's how you got to look at it. You don't look at it as 2 drives, look at it as 2 plays. And do times with possessions and what goes on. So hopefully we've learned our lesson.
And even that point that you always say, this team didn't rush being down 14-0. Right? Was that another thing that you saw?
Yeah, we didn't panic. We got some urgency, but, we want to have urgency before we get down.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to do. And keep our poise and keep our emotions in check very early.
Because if you're too emotional, right, Jimbo, that burns out. And then what do you have left?
And
right?
you learn that all that goes away, all the emotion, the rah-rah. They say motivate me. Motivate. You got to motivate yourself. And the motivation goes out the window about the first 2 times that guy hits you in the mouth. You know what I mean? Then your training takes over. You don't win because you want to. You don't win because you're emotional. You don't win because you got a certain uniform on. You win because you train to and you train the right way to, and it's ingrained in you to compete and play at those levels of things and accept the challenges in front of you.
You were just telling me once again, cause and effect.
Because you do this, it's what I don't want cause and effect. I want cause and effect. I don't want cause and excuse.
Right.
Cause and excuse is a different way, and that's what the world does. Everybody, we got excuse for everything, and you can't. You got to fix it and you got to handle it.
As you always say, the natural tendency is to relax.
Human nature is to take the easy way. Human nature is not to strain. It's not to grind. It's not to push. That's not for. The people who really grind, push, and strain are the 1%ers. They're different, and the great people don't think rationally. Great teams don't think rationally. You can't. You can't achieve what you want to achieve and think like everybody else. Mm-hmm. They may think you're crazy, but if you don't believe that and think that way and then act that way, you're never going to be that way. They think everybody think that is Tom Brady normal? And I say from a thought process, is Michael Jordan normal?
Right.
Is the great Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron or whoever? You talk about the great baseball players, Ted Williams. He talked about. Those guys, they talked different and they thought different. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just everybody think like Jabbar, Magic Johnson, or Larry Bird. They thought differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the great players, great teams, and they unify that. And the coaches and all that, people think different than the normal person. And then you got to strain to be there. It's not natural to do that.
Right.
Because it never ends. And people want to go relax and enjoy life. And there's more to, there's more to this than that. Well, okay, but not for us.
Right.
Can't be if you're in it.
That's exactly right. Jimbo, thank you so much. Another fun hour. Thank you.
Appreciate
it. You bet. He's Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. Saturday, we'll join you from Starkville, 2 o'clock. St. Joseph Health pregame show, 3 o'clock the kick between the 17th-ranked Aggies and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. For Kevin Menchow, Tony O'Neill, who's the producer of Aggie Football, for head coach Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks and gig 'em. This is Aggie Football from Learfield.